Welcome back to Beyond 60 Unscripted. I'm Fawn Lopez.
And I'm Ruth Williams-Brinkley, and we are just delighted that you're here with us because we like to say that life beyond 60 isn't about slowing down. It's about showing up, leaning in, and thriving.
That's right. Today's episode is all about joy, rhythm, and a little bit of swing. We're talking about jazz and how music can uplift the spirit, boost mental health, brain health, and keep us connected, inspired, and engaged at any age.
We have an exciting interview today with Dr. Molly Coye, who is the chair of the San Francisco Jazz Board. And it's going to be really, really exciting. But before we get into this exciting interview, I want to just check in a little bit and see how we're doing. Fawn, I know we were talking, you've had a very interesting week. So let's talk about that, because I've had an interesting week also.
Well, I'm really excited about the conversation with Molly Coye,
Yeah.
Dr. Coye. But yeah, it's been a challenging week. It's been a tough week globally. And, I've been grappling with, what the future looks like. And some of it is out of our control. But you know what, Ruth, I really try not to think about some of these negatives and try to focus on what's positive that's happening out there and in my life. So, some of these things are challenging, but so one of the things I'm focusing on that's positive is I'm starting my training for the Chicago Triathlon this summer. So that's something that will keep me very busy.
I think
And
so, Fawn.
healthy.
I think so. Wow. You never fail to amaze me. Talk about that.
Well, it's something I do. I've done several triathlons, but haven't done one in a few years. So it's time. What about you? What's going on with your life? What's going on this week?
Well, let's just say we're all concerned about our 401ks and the stock market and so forth. So we're just going to put that
Absolutely.
aside for a moment, and really, focus on what you said, something positive. So I'm not running a triathlon, but I'm going to be cheering for you, Fawn. I am
Thank you.
continuing to go to the gym 3 times a week and trying to get in my 10,000 steps a day and focusing
That's
on
awesome.
my grandchildren.
Good.
I went to, it's nothing like going to a grandparents' day to put things in perspective. So I just went to my youngest grandchild's grandparent day, and to watch those little people sing and do their projects and to do projects with them, that's what gives me joy. And to focus on, I have 2 granddaughters and an older grandson, and to just focus on these 2 young women, these 2 young girls, knowing that they're going to be young women soon. So yeah, that's what I'm focusing on: family and trying to invest in the next generation.
Absolutely. I don't have kids, but I have great
Yes.
grandnieces.
Yes. Yes.
So
You,
yes.
you talked about your nieces. Yes.
Yeah, so I try to spend time with them, and it's always a wonderful experience. Just watching them doing their things and the way they think, and it's really I'm really happy for you. So yeah, we can only focus on what we can control, and this is
Right.
that's a part of life that you can control. So
That's
I'm happy
right.
for you.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm excited about your triathlon. We got to talk more about that.
Yeah.
That's exciting. Okay, before we jump into today's interview, it's time for our Beyond 60 Buzz, where we take just a few minutes to look at a hot topic in the news that's shaping life after 60. So today, I want to draw our attention to an article about the benefits of music on the mind and body of older adults. Now, we've already said and hinted that we're going to have an interview with Dr. Molly Coye about jazz. But I want to talk a little bit about this episode of an article that came out of Banner Health, which is a large health system headquartered in Arizona. And they really talk about the benefits of music on the mind and body of older adults. And it was interesting to read about all the impact that it can have on creativity for older adults, for anybody, but for older adults especially, creativity, cognitive health, memory, and so forth. So I want to find, have you read anything about this that you want to add?
Yes, there's been a lot written about the arts and music and how music can boost, your mood, your brain health, and
Yep.
can help connect people, right? Help to build communities. Health benefits of music is really has been quantified, and it's just span a gamut, and especially for folks that are dealing with illnesses, Alzheimer's for sure, right? It's been proven or researched has shown that it has helped Alzheimer's patients to really feel more connected and even bring back some lost memories, which, it's just, I don't know if you had a chance to watch the Tony Bennett and Lady Gaga's performance.
I did.
I cried during that performance, because knowing that Tony Bennett at the time was 95 years old, and he was dealing with, a progression of Alzheimer's.
Yes.
Yet he remembered every single word.
He sure did.
In that music, in that song. The lady is the Tramp, I think is the song.
Yep.
And it was unbelievable how he would just picked it up when the music started. He just went on to sing. So it was amazing.
And to see the joy on his face and the enjoyment that he was experiencing doing that. And Lady Gaga too. I mean, she obviously is not over 60, but she was enjoying it as well. So, that interaction of younger people and older people, it's part of what keeps us all going. So this music thing is a big deal. And I was reading too that for people who are younger or of any age, music helps to relieve stress and anxiety, and it helps to alleviate chronic pain. And this is not just what people are making up. There's a scientific basis for this. So music is really, really important.
And not only just for patients, but also for caregivers.
Yes.
Right? It really, a lot of I guess focus is not always on the caregivers, but it is they have the biggest, most important roles in the caregiving process.
Yep.
So what has been researched or been found is that music brings families together. They can share positive experiences and having being able to connect better with family members. So
yeah, I love all kinds of music, and I know you like country music.
I like all kinds of music.
But I know you particularly you've grown fond of country music. I do too. I love gospel, jazz, blues, you name it. It just does something to you.
Yeah.
We are thrilled today to welcome our guest, Dr. Molly Joel Coye. Molly, as we know her, is a global leader in healthcare innovation, and now she's also the board chair for San Francisco Jazz, the largest not-for-profit jazz group in the country, really. And Molly, we just want to hear and have our audience hear about what it is you're doing with San Francisco Jazz. You serve over 250,000 fans and students every year. So welcome, Molly, to Beyond 60 Unscripted. You've had such a dynamic and impactful career, Molly. So I want you to start off by telling our listeners a little bit about yourself and your journey to San Francisco Jazz.
First of all, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, and I really look forward to talking with you this morning. Well, I think the thing that ties it together is that my dad collected early Jelly Roll Morton, early jazz. Jelly Roll was one of the founders of jazz. And so I grew up listening to it, but like many of our fathers who were World War II veterans, he didn't talk much, and he never explained it. So later, when I finished medical school and I was in San Francisco, I started going to listen to jazz. And it was like, oh, this is what that was. And so I've been listening to it as a fan for 30 years. And 6 or 7 years ago, I got invited to go on the board because we have a huge educational program and big digital outreach. And they needed someone who knew digital technology well. And so I went on the board for that reason. And last summer, they asked me to take the chairmanship. And it's been an honor and exciting. We have come back stronger than ever. We now are selling more tickets and getting more revenues than we did before COVID, which is pretty amazing achievement for an arts organization. So it's been really a wonderful opportunity. And it is a second life for me in that sense. Even though being chair, as you guys know, because you've been chairs of boards, only lasts so long. So I got to see, I'm definitely not going to be a musician, that's for sure.
Well, thank you so much. Congratulations. And I'm so excited about this conversation with you, Molly. We've both known each other. All three of us have known each other a long time. And you have such an incredible background, experience, and everything in between. But so we'll ask you about that later. But so with San Francisco Jazz being such a prestigious organization, tell us a little more about it.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's a very complex and fascinating organization. Our revenues are about 21 million, our base budget, 21 million, and we have about 80 employees full time. So it's a medium, small nonprofit. But we do have, as Ruth said, 10 years ago, we built the first freestanding jazz presentation concert hall in the United States. And we're still the largest nonprofit jazz organization of its size or of its type. And we have two main arms. One is that we present music. And unlike most jazz groups around the country, we have 400 presentations a year.
Wow.
So our concert, we have two venues, a big concert hall and a smaller, we call it the Joe Henderson Laboratory, which can seat 100. And we are close to filling it, selling out most of the season. And those putting on 400 presentations a year, especially when obviously there are dead times periodically, really is a huge undertaking. And our staff work just as hard as every other nonprofit you've ever known, or even harder. And we have been very creative. We present both jazz and what some people think of as jazz adjacent, meaning music that has learned from jazz or that jazz has incorporated. And we have Latin jazz and African jazz and Scandinavian jazz. And so we really are global as well. And we're increasingly going to be presenting globally. So that side of the house is our main purpose. And when we did our strategic plan about 5 years ago, or no, about 4 years ago now, we really made it clear our mission is to grow jazz in the world, to grow the audiences, and to grow the possibility for artists to have a good, satisfying career as jazz musicians. And of course, as someone with a healthcare background, I'm very interested in how we can help them throughout their life to have good support, healthcare, mental health, problems with housing, all kinds of things like that. So it's a big mission, and many other organizations around the country are playing an important role in it. But our second one is specifically education. And we have a program on jazz and social justice in every public junior high in San Francisco and Oakland. And that is a huge undertaking. We have teaching artists that go into the schools, and we work with their social studies staff to present a 2-week program to educate kids about the role of music, and especially jazz, in their lives, in what this does in our culture and where it came from in our history, because it was created out of slavery and pain and creativity coming out of New Orleans and the Caribbean. So it's a wonderful story. So those are our 2 missions and what we work on.
Wow, Molly. I mean, I am just learning so much from you. First of all, about the history of jazz and, how you all have incorporated this into San Francisco jazz. And I knew a little bit about what you're talking about, but you really have gone to a depth that I didn't know about. I want to ask you one question, though. You talked about how you came to jazz because of your father and his love for Jelly Roll Morton and so forth. Tell me, you mentioned something that I think I'm curious about. You said that your digital, and I know you have a strong background in digital health, and you were saying that has come into being useful in this role at San Francisco Jazz. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, and I think actually there's another thing that I have realized at the same time, which might be of interest. Many of the women listening to this in their working lives and whatever their profession has been, when they think of an arts organization, well, I don't really know enough about arts organization. And so when I was asked to join the board, I said, well, I'm not a high net worth individual and I don't know what am I going to help with? And they said, first of all, to their credit, they said, we need more women. So I was pleased to have that be a reason.
Yeah.
Secondly, we want someone who knows digital. And the wonderful thing about that is there were a gazillion tech bros, male tech executives they could have chosen. And instead, they asked me to do it. So again, I was very pleased with that. But after I was there for a while, and especially when I became chair, again, when they asked me to be chair, I said, geez, I never was a musician. I never worked in music. And it has become clear to me that jobs in leadership are transferable. And I think that's a really important message, especially if you care passionately about what you're working on. And since jazz was a passion for me, it took me a while of being in the seat to realize that what I needed to do to help the organization had more to do with skills and leadership, leadership and staff leadership and interactions and all. And so the digital part, going back to what you asked, Ruth, is I've always been mostly interested about what can digital do directly for patients? What do to make it easier for them to talk with doctors or nurses, today AI.
Yes.
And also to satisfy their social needs and meet other kinds of needs in their life. And for digital access to music, it's the same thing. How do you weave it into their life? How do you make it accessible in a way that's convenient, that's affordable, and that gives them joy? So it actually, significant pieces of it transfer, although, we have digital staff who are brilliant and way ahead of me, but, it helps to have a leader who at least understands.
It's just amazing. Let me just say one more thing about this, and then we can move on. But it's just amazing, Molly. You probably would have never thought that you would use your digital expertise in healthcare to be applied in this jazz format. It's just amazing. Like you said, everything we learn over our lifetimes, it can be useful. So anyway, I'll stop there and let Fawn ask her a question. But it's just amazing.
Well, I love all that the San Francisco Jazz stands for, right? Innovation, education, and really their interest in having more women on the board. So that all sounded fantastic to me. You touch a little bit on your healthcare background and your digital background. Would love to hear your perspective on the role of music and the arts in promoting health, healing, and you mentioned about talking about patience, and the community well-being, especially as we age. How music supports cognitive and emotional health, particularly for those of us over 60.
Well, there's a wonderful book that Renee Fleming wrote. It's a huge volume about the history and current knowledge about music and healing. So there's a huge resource. There is lots of research that shows it is not only healing in the sense of speeding people getting back to their healthy state if they're having problems, but that it promotes wellness, as you said. And particularly towards the later stages of life. And there are even 2 or 3 companies now that have been around for 5 or 6 years and are doing pretty well, that nursing homes and senior living residences and places like that use. Now, these are digital companies that basically work with an individual patient, and sometimes it's a mix of on-site physical person and the digital technology, and sometimes it's done online, like you'd think of telehealth. Finding out from the patient what kind of music they like. And if they can't, for example, with some people with early dementia, if they can't explain it, they play music and see what they respond to. And then they make playlists for them of the kind of music that is meaningful to them. And it brings them joy, and in many cases restores them to participation in the community.
Wow.
So it's so exciting. I think
I could feel it from you. I could feel the passion in your words.
Yeah.
That's just so amazing. The power of music, especially jazz, right? So just thank you for doing what you do. Thank you for, once again, you've pivoted from healthcare, but there's real connection between art and jazz and healthcare there.
Yeah. So Molly, you touched on this a little bit, but I want you to talk about it a little bit more. Now, San Francisco jazz is just amazing. And what about smaller communities? Not every community is not many communities, I'll say. In fact, I'll say I don't know of any other community that has something like San Francisco jazz. So in smaller communities, like I've lived in smaller communities over the course of my career, Louisville, Kentucky, St. Louis, Missouri, not small, but doesn't have the infrastructure in jazz that San Francisco jazz does. Chattanooga, Tennessee, some places I've lived. How can these small communities connect with jazz and more broadly bring that into their communities? And I heard you talk about maybe through virtual concerts and so forth. Do you have thoughts about that?
Oh, yeah. And first of all, I want to make sure that we give credit. There are places like St. Louis has had a jazz club for years.
Yes.
And Denise Times is one of my favorite singers ever. And she's very well known and has sung in Chicago and all over the place. And so we shouldn't, just because their efforts may be somewhat smaller scale, doesn't mean it's deeply felt. They're also in many places like Santa Fe and other places that are known as musical communities. They may not have a separate jazz club, but they do jazz presentations. So our hope, when I said that we want to spread beyond the region of San Francisco, is to use digital and in person to support interest in jazz around the country. In some cases, working with existing jazz clubs, and in other cases, working with venues that present all kinds of music to make it easier for them to present jazz. And so a couple of things. First of all, we and Jazz at Lincoln Center and a few other organizations do present digital concerts. So you can go on.
Yeah.
Point. We started ours during COVID. So every Friday night, you could be sitting with your pod having dinner and watch
That's awesome.
a jazz concert. And, you know, it's not bad, even depending on your home, the acoustics could be all right. We got tremendous listenership. And it was great because, you know, you'd have the side ability on Zoom to have chats going at the same time. And those got pretty raucous. So it was a great opportunity. We still have a Friday night show, but you can access a whole library of past shows. And in the future, more and more of our work will be available. But there's another thing which I think very few people outside of education know about, but most schools around the country have access to remote virtual arts presentations. Our program is through a program, Scenic, but this allows us to make our presentations available in every public school in California.
I love that.
Also working with the historically Black colleges and universities. We're working with lots of organizations to make sure that what we create or host is available to everybody. And let me say also that, because Fawn, you were talking earlier about their reaching out to me to increase their number of women.
Yeah.
We have well over 50% diverse board, and that we are strongly committed to DEI by any name you call it, including DEI. And that's one of our missions, and it's very strong in what we do. So I just want to let that not get mentioned. So
well, I saw that on your website. Yeah, I saw that on your website. It's very impressive. I know a few people on there, so it's impressive. It's impressive.
So for someone like myself who likes jazz, but I don't get a lot of exposure to it. My dad used to listen to jazz, but he passed away a long time ago. And so what would you recommend as for someone like myself or our listeners, some of our listeners? How do we get excited or learn more about? I know you have digital or online opportunities, but give us a couple of suggestions as to how we can get more excited.
Okay. Well, the first thing is finding a few places that you find that you like the presentation. So the best way for that is YouTube. You'll find SFJAZZ as a channel, and you'll find, you know, many other organizations have channels. And so if you go and you start prowling around and you say, oh, I really like this person, you know, and as, for example, one of my favorite singers is Cecile McLaurin-Salvant. And so you might go to SFJAZZ and see her concert there on our channel, and then you would put that in search and follow her to a couple of other places. And then, you know, you can go in Spotify and see singers like that. Or say there's a project, Jeff Watts is a drummer, and you can go say, I want to see what some other interesting drummers are doing. And then you can put in San Francisco Jazz, you can go to our website, and we have discussions with the artists about why they created, what they were thinking about. And then we have another type of show where we ask artists to talk about what's going on in the scene and what their thoughts are and what influenced them. So you can start prowling around. And I think that's the best way to learn until hopefully you have some friends who might be interested, and then start going to some concerts. There are actually concerts in a lot of the medium-sized cities. Below, they're going to be probably digital a lot of the time. But there are local jazz artists everywhere. And a third of our concerts at SFJAZZ are local artists. So we really respect local artists, and we hire them for our education program. So
I live right across from, sorry.
No, I was going to say it's really infused into the community, really. Everything you said talks about the infusion into the community.
So Molly, I live in Chicago, and it's an incredible city with such and I've been really have not taken advantage of it. But we live across from the Bean, which is the Millennium Park, where there's a major band shell out there.
Yeah.
And in the summer, there's a whole jazz free concert, jazz series.
Yeah.
I'm going to start going now.
Okay, well, we'll have to
Because we have to have a conversation about that.
Liked. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's free to the public.
Let me do 2-second advertisement. For the first time, we're doing a 3-day festival in June at SF.
In San Francisco?
Yeah, at San Francisco
Okay.
Jazz. We'll have 35 artists in 3 days.
Wow.
Wow.
Go to the site, sfjazz.org, and you'll get a chance to.
Well, we need to make make plans to come out there.
That's right. That's
Right.
right.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. Okay.
All right. I'd love to shift gears a little bit and talk about your background.
Mhm.
So you have an incredible background in healthcare, and you've done so much, but you've chosen to stay incredibly active beyond 60, joining boards, leading organizations, and remaining very deeply engaging in meaningful work. Can you talk about how you view this phase of your life, and what does rewirement mean to you, and how has this chapter allow you to grow and to continue to contribute in new ways?
Boy, I ask myself that as well. I ask my
You are
friend.
the busiest
Yeah.
retiree I know.
Well,
you
I do
retired?
have-
Such interesting things, though. You do such interesting things.
Different things.
Yeah, well, I think, and to me, retirement is something that had to hit me over the head before I actually dealt with it. I really always believed that you had to plan for retirement. I mean, I could cite all the research, like you all know, that you're going to do much better if you think about what you want to do and you develop what your outside interests are and all of that. But my work life was never a planned life. It was always opportunistic. I'd be doing one thing and I'd be feeling restive, and somebody would come along with another job and I would take a 90-degree turn. And so I wasn't very good at saying, oh, at this age, I'm going to do such and such. And I would say until the last year, I probably had done 5 years or 6 years of continued activity where I certainly didn't need to do it economically anymore. And I would have nominally been that would have been like 72 or 71, sort of at the point where you should. Well, a for-profit board offered me the chance to go on their board, and they changed their bylaws so that I could stay on. I was 78. And I thought, oh, well, I guess, I'm going to clearly get fewer offers to be on a board as you get older. But this was one that I really loved and I enjoyed. And I have tended, of course, to do more board membership than actually, running a program. That was probably 70, 71 when I made that transition. And I love board membership. Last January, it looked like various boards I was on were going to get acquired, or it was going to be time for me to roll off. And I thought, oh, this is going to give me, I'll be at least half time, maybe less, 30, 40% time working. And that, of course, is just when SFJAZZ asked me to take over the chairmanship.
Another opportunity, right?
I had a blessed 3 or 4 months to sort of imagine what it would be like to be more retired. But we are going through a lot of transitions. We have a wonderful executive artistic director, Terrence Blanchard, who is nationally known.
And saw that. Can I just pause on that? Click on that for a moment. This is serious stuff. You all are. I'm impressed. That's a big name. I'm sorry. Keep going.
Well, right. We know him and we feel that way. So anyway, and we're about to hire a new permanent CEO because we have a CEO and an executive artistic director, and we're very excited about that. So my role will go back to adult roar. So I think I will be able to return to, well, what does it mean to be part-time retired? Because I really want that now, because that would be my I guess I lied, my final point. It's that pick up something in the arts before you retire.
Mm-hmm.
Because the fact that I was on the board of SFJAZZ not only opened me to jazz more and to music, but I get a daily feed of poetry now, of a poem every day. So I was
Oh,
going through my email, and all of a sudden it's sort of like, oh, this happened in, this big cut in HHS or something. And then all of a sudden, here's a poem by Maya Angelou,
Yeah.
or
oh,
a poem by an unknown poet in Nigeria. Just fascinating. And I stop for a second and I read it. And then you say, okay, back to the world again.
I'm better now, right?
yeah.
You have to recalibrate your mind, your brain, right? And get yourself back on track.
Yeah.
Because there's so many things happening. Some of it is not very positive, but I love the tip that you just gave us. It's just very, and I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna start.
Good.
I really want to talk about you a little bit more about how your career in healthcare and public service, which you just talked about, and I love the opportunistic nature of what you've done. I think it served you pretty well, to be real honest. Were there lessons or mindsets that help you navigate and get to where you are? And I know it was opportunistic, but as you look back, were there certain things or lessons learned that you can point to that help you get to where you are now?
I think the two things. One, I said in an interview about 10 years ago, and people kept quoting back to me, so I think I better say it again, is don't do anything you're not passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
Is really care about what the organization you're joining is doing and what the impact of your participation, even if you're not a full-on leader yet, but what the impact of your participation and work can be. So the first part is the passion.
Mm-hmm.
And the second part is to try to have a clear idea of what you think might be different because you are participating. And so I started out working with labor unions and helping the farm workers to understand what pesticides did to them. So I was teaching the field workers and I was teaching the health workers in the clinics. And we even developed a new test to help prove when they were poisoned by organophosphates. So it was a clear reason to be doing that. Excuse me. And so each time I changed, it was because the area of healthcare I was going into had need. I mean, there's no place in healthcare that doesn't have needs. But it
Yes.
had a compelling need to me that I thought I could help with. And usually after 5 or 10 years, sometimes after only 5 years, you either could make an impact or you saw why it wasn't going to be easy to make an impact and you're better off trying something else.
Give it.
So I hear you saying that people should be, and we learned from one of our previous podcasts that there are different seasons of your retirement life or your next phase. So is that what you're saying? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but is that what you're saying, that if you're not getting the joy, the satisfaction of making the impact, to, think about moving to something different? Did I get that right?
Yeah, because I mean, we should be experimental up until the last breath.
Yeah.
100%.
We should be innovating. We should, like if you're really trying to help some member of your family and you're spending half your time supporting them and it's not working, go seek help. Don't just keep throwing yourself on the wheel without trying to make some changes. So
I love that. And that's the whole concept of Beyond 60 Unscripted, right? So live it until the day you
The last breath until your last breath.
Yeah.
That's right.
Anyway, it has been such an amazing conversation, Molly. Thank you so much for sharing your time and your perspectives with us. We we're truly grateful. And you got me thinking about what I can do for myself with jazz, with spending more time appreciation the arts.
So one last question, and I think you may have already said this, but Molly, before we close, what would you love for our listeners to know about the fun and fulfillment of jazz or any new passion at any age?
The feeling when you're sitting in a concert or you're listening at home on, YouTube or, on any other platform, it's this feeling of wonder that I heard jazz harp for the first time about a year ago with classical violins, a hip hop singer,
Wow,
heavy bass and drums, and it was transformative. Those moments of joy they happen for people in many kinds of music, and it's really wonderful.
oh my goodness! So you've just given me chills, really.
Yeah.
Thinking about this. So
Just hearing the passion coming out of
yes,
your voice.
yes.
So
yes.
thank you
Thank
on
you,
behalf of our
Molly.
listeners.
Yes, thank you so much.
You're the best. Thank you. So now it's time for our quick tip of the week, what we call
The silver
lining.
lining.
Ruth, you want to give us your silver lining of the week?
Well, this is a little spicy one. So it's the silver lining for this week is spicing up your love life. Studies show that people over 60 report higher relationship satisfaction than any other age group. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
The secret, a little laughter, a little adventure, a little music, and never underestimating the power of a great date night. And if you don't have a date, you have your best friends, you have your community of people. Just being in a relationship with somebody who cares about you and who you care about and who makes life richer is important. So those
Your
relationships are important. Pets, that's right. Pets. People love their pets. That's right. I don't own a pet, but I know a lot of pet parents who I love hearing stories about their pets.
Absolutely. So whether it's dancing in the kitchen, listening to music, or planning a spontaneous night, keep the spark alive because passion keeps you younger.
It really does. So that wraps up today's episode. And I just want to give a huge shout out and a huge thanks to Dr. Molly Coye for bringing her passion and perspective on San Francisco jazz and all things music to our podcast.
And thank you to you for listening and joining this community of vibrant, thriving, and ever curious souls. Be sure to follow us and subscribe on social media so you never miss an episode. So until then, keep dancing, keep laughing, keep dreaming, keep thriving, and
remember, the best
years are still
ahead.